For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's fourth practice of its 2021 fall camp. Now, Shotgun, I thought overall it was a solid practice for the Trojans. Nothing too notable, but they did get good work in. I think the biggest play to come out of not only today, but maybe of camp so far was a great one-handed catch by tight end Josh Follow, a name we haven't mentioned yet so far.
Yeah, the redshirt senior going up and making a play, a one-handed grab, and not a one-handed grab going over his shoulder, the ball's coming down. This was on a line from Miller Moss. He goes up and snatches it out of the air, makes a tremendous play, and then everyone's coming off the sidelines to congratulate him from both sides, because this is a guy who's put in the work and hasn't really seen a bunch of shine for USC. So I think all the guys, the older guys, want to see him get his opportunity. He made a really nice play today, and I think the best part of it was Gavin Morris then trying to emulate it afterwards and try to showcase his ups, going up to make a one-handed grab. But no, a terrific catch from Josh Follow, probably the play so far of fall camp. But like you said, pretty even day. Nothing really stand out there besides, unfortunately, some injuries.
Yeah, we did see a couple guys get banged up. One of the first ones was Keontae Ingram. He came out after a tackle for loss from Hunter Echols. It looked like Hunter kind of grabbed his foot a little bit, but we got to talk to him today. He was one of the newcomers we got to talk to, and he said he's fine. He said it was a little scary there, but he's okay, and he was able to talk to us, which is great. But then Darwin Barlow came out. We did see him at the starter practice during warm-ups. It looked like he was working on his hamstring under the trainer's tent, and then it looked like on a run he pulled up lame a little bit, but he was able to walk under his own power, but he did not return to practice. And then Kalen Bullock came out early. He looked like he was holding his left hip, I believe. So that's a question mark there. We don't get to talk to Helton until tomorrow, so we'll get a full injury update there. But USC got a little banged up for the first time so far this fall camp.
Yeah, there's also a couple wide receivers, Gary Bryant, Kyron Ware-Hudson, guys that aren't full participants right now. Definitely a concern with Gary Bryant because he's had some injuries so far in his USC career. Darwin Barlow, that one's always a scary one, a running back with a hamstring. That one's going to be one to keep an eye on. We did see some guys like Kobe Pepe doing some stuff over at the trainer's table, but getting back in there. So, some guys getting some nicks and bruises, which you expect in the first week, but the Barlow one is one to keep an eye on. And the Bullock one, it looked like he was grabbing his abdomen at first, and then later he was holding his hip as he was leaving. So maybe a hip pointer, maybe something there. A guy that's really getting a lot of play and getting a lot of opportunities, was getting a lot of first team reps. Greg Johnson was out yesterday. Greg Johnson returned today. They kept Greg Johnson out until after Kalen Bullock exited with that injury. So he was getting a lot of opportunities. We'll see how quickly he can come back, if he can get back in the mix there at one of those safety spots.
And we still haven't seen Drake Jackson, even though parents did show up to practice today, which was nice to see the parents and also refs. So some new additions to practice. But no Drake Jackson. Drake London had a little bit of a scare. He went up for a catch, and Clay Helton came over to him and was like, calm down a little bit. We know what you can do. Save it for the season. That's what I'm assuming, but it seemed like they had a little moment there.
Yeah, it was a Bubba, let's not get hurt right now because we really need you during the season type of conversation. Clay Helton's probably holding his breath when he sees Drake London go down kind of hard. A catch where he goes up over three guys to make a play again. And I think that the young quarterbacks have already learned, if you're in trouble, find 15, throw it up to him, he'll go make a play. And that's what he did on this play. He came down pretty hard. I think kind of knocked the breath out of him a little bit, but he did come back a little bit later. But like you said, families were there. Big contingent of family. Obviously they haven't been able to see their kids play the last year and a half either. So a lot of people coming out to see everyone see their kids out in pads and get an opportunity to play, especially those freshmen and young guys. They want to see what do they look like in that uniform for the first time. So definitely a lot of there. And then the refs being out, I think is always a good thing. And one thing that I thought was interesting, we saw this yesterday when Juliano Falanico jumped off sides. He got taken out immediately. He went to the sideline, had 10 up downs. Well, today we saw there was a flag thrown for a false start. Andrew Voorhees pulled out and immediately has to do 10 up downs, and someone else is replacing him. I think that's really, really important to work on the accountability to deal with those penalties that USC's had in the past, especially ones that are pre-snap like that, ones you really need to cut out. So USC's working on those things. They were doing it yesterday without the refs, and then back today with the refs. We saw the hand grabbing, the hand fighting from the receivers and DBs. That kind of eased up a little bit when the refs show up. So there were a couple flags thrown in the secondary, but a lot less than maybe could have been thrown some of the other days. So always important to get the refs out here and get some work with them as well.
We continue to see mixing and matching with USC's offensive line. I feel like we saw a little bit of new configurations today. Overall, how do you think that battle is going?
It's hard to say how the battle is going. I think that we saw Cortland Ford back with the first team yesterday. We saw Jonah Monheim back at left tackle today. We saw Jalen McKenzie get some left tackle reps with the second or third team as well. So mixing and matching, wanting to see where guys are. Liam Jimmins getting some tackle reps as well with one of the second or third teams. So, mixing and matching with that second and third team as well with some of the first team guys that are interior, having them bounce into different positions and see what they can do. So everyone's getting their opportunities now. When they get the pads on, full pads in a couple of days, and you go full tackle, full run period, then we'll see where those offensive linemen are at against the defensive linemen, because the defensive linemen are getting some pressure right now on the quarterbacks, but you're also seeing the offensive line open up some holes, and there's some very nice holes on a couple of the runs that we've seen the last couple of days. So I think it's kind of back and forth right now. We'll see how things continue to solidify as camp progresses.
Mm-hmm. As I previewed in yesterday's instant analysis, we got to talk to some newcomers today, which was fun. Always fun to get your first interactions with new players. Not so new, but also new were two transfers. Taj Washington, new to us, I guess. Taj Washington and Keontae Ingram. Keontae Ingram transferred from Texas, Taj from Memphis, but they're both Texas boys, and that was kind of the thing that united them together, or at least the connection that they have.
Yeah, Keontae Ingram talked about, when he shows up and the defensive coordinator, his running backs coach, the offensive coordinator, they're all from Texas, or he's seen them before at Texas, just makes him that much more comfortable. And that's the same thing that Taj Washington had to say when I talked to him, that, he said that there's shared relationships, shared experiences with some of the guys. He said, whether it be a track meet or something from high school, and, guys are talking about in the locker room, and he goes, oh, wait, I was at that one too. And they start talking back and forth, and it just creates that extra bond. And that's one of the things he said that has definitely stood out for him, is that, coming from Memphis to USC, being a Texas kid, you could be completely on your own and not knowing anyone. He's felt like he knows some of these guys. He has a good feel for some of the guys, so that's making getting used to Southern California much easier, much quicker.
Mm-hmm. And those are two guys who could get significant playing time this season. What did Taj have to say about what he could do in this offense?
I mean, he brings speed, and that's what he said. That's one of the things that we've already seen from him. He had another nice catch in the goal line drills that they had one-on-ones where just left a defender in the dust, basically. And that's not even the speed. That's just the quicks coming off the line, but then he has the top-end speed as well. So he's going to bring that to the room, but also some experience. He said, I played in some games too, so he's bringing some experience as he's a third-year guy coming in. He's a third-year freshman, technically. Coming into USC, was a freshman All-American at Memphis last year. With the COVID year comes in, he has that experience. So, the biggest thing for him is learning the offense, but he said getting down that connection with Keaton Slovis, he said that's going really well so far, and he's really excited about where this offense can go with all the weapons that are around. And that's the same thing Keontae Ingram was talking about, is part of the reason why he wanted to come to USC was the opportunities for one-on-one chances in this offense. Because there's so many weapons going on, then the whole defense can't focus on him. He's going to get some one-on-one opportunities outside the tackles, and he thinks he can make some guys miss.
Mm-hmm. We also got to talk to three freshman defenders, Korey Foreman, Rajon Davis, and Eure Wright. I thought it was interesting. I feel like everyone expects Korey Foreman to just transition seamlessly into the college football, but he was like, no, this has been a transition for me. I have to get my cardio up a little bit, and he was like, I haven't played football in a long time, and so I thought that was an interesting thing, but what did you take away from the freshman defenders?
Well, Rajon Davis, it comes from the Trinity League, comes from modern day. He's used to the speed of the game already. That's one of the things that normally when freshmen come in, it takes them a little bit of time to get used to the speed of the game. He says he feels like he's already there because of the work that he's gotten in the Trinity League, and it was really important for him to have that spring season, I think, to help him with that. I think that's where Korey Foreman is taking a little bit of time to catch up as well there. We talked to Eure Wright, or Ryan, got to talk to him. Always a personable kid,
yeah.
Talked about, the Space Jam, experience. He said that some of his teammates made fun of him because he's not a very good basketball player. He says, wait, I've gotten better. That was 2 years ago when we filmed that. But, he talked about that. He talked a little bit about the NIL deal that he just signed with Overtime. Very personable kids, all three of these guys. But I thought it was interesting. You talked to Korey Foreman. You said he was a little bit nervous. And this is the guy who's had all the media attention coming in. Rajon and Eure, very calm, cool, and collected. But Korey seemed like a little bit nervous to begin with.
I mean, it's a normal freshman thing. He's human. People. He has some.
Is he?
Maybe he
I
has.
didn't know that.
He has media nerves. So he was just trying to make sure he was saying everything and getting it right. So it was just funny just to see. He could probably kill me on the football field, but he was nervous to stand in front of me and interview.
What was the most important thing that came out of talking to Korey, though? Just because, I mean, this is a guy that everyone wants to know everything about because coming in as the number one player in that 2021 class.
I mean, I pretty much said it. He didn't have too much to say about, hey, where do the coaches expect you to play this season? I asked him that, and he said, that's for Coach Helton. I'm just here to play. So he didn't really want to get into too many details, but he did say he's here to work, and he's here to be the best he can be and help USC win a national championship. So overall, it was a pretty vanilla. He's working hard, and he's adjusting to college ball type of interview.
Those guys definitely have been coached up. Taj Washington was asked, inside, outside. That's a question for coaches. Where do you like to play? I like everywhere. So I think those guys have been coached up, but great to hear from those newcomers, that are those guys that we talked to today. We expect to be early contributors. We did talk to the quarterbacks as well.
Yep.
Those guys may not necessarily be early contributors, but as Miller Moss said, he and Jackson Dart are fighting to be the face of the USC program in the future after Keaton Slovis takes off to the NFL.
Yeah, they were. Miller Moss is a little less media trained, which I really enjoyed because he was my early candidate for quote of camp because he was saying, competing against Jackson Dart is not an easy task. He's the Gatorade Player of the Year. He's not just some bum. And I've never heard a player refer to their teammate as a bum or not some bum. So I thought that was interesting. But overall, you can see the camaraderie between the two. It's not some horrible fight between them in the locker room. They enjoy each other's company, but at the end of the day, they're on the field battling for that number 2 spot.
Yeah, and these guys know each other. They've trained with each other, in high school. So this is not some, come in and this is a guy from across the country. Even though Jackson Dart was in Utah, they know each other prior to getting to USC. And Miller Moss even said, it might even be easier if I did hate him because then it would be easier to compete against him. But, they're working with each other to help each other get better as it goes along. And they said it's a very cordial relationship between the two of them. Miller Moss playing with a lot of confidence. I thought it was interesting. He admitted he didn't expect the impact of that year and a half off that he had in the spring. He said it took him a little while to shake off the rust, and I think you're seeing that now. It's something we talked about leading into the fall, but I think we're seeing his confidence has grown from the spring to now, and he's making some really nice plays, moving around in the pocket. Jackson Dart, a guy we already saw, has a gunslinger mentality, and I thought it was interesting what Miller Moss said after Graham Harrell challenged him. Hey, take some more shots down the field, be more aggressive. And he said it's not something that's a mindset he goes up to the line and says, all right, I got to make a deep throw. He said, I kind of expected people know what I can do. We got to realize that not everyone knows that. I got to go out and prove it on the field and show it. So that was kind of interesting to hear him say that as well.
Mm-hmm. And both quarterbacks noted how valuable player run practices were this offseason. And that's not something that USC could even do prior to the 2020 COVID season. So I thought that was interesting working up the chemistry with the wide receivers. But Jackson Dart said he's a little bit at an advantage because at Corner Canyon, the high school he came from, it was a similar offense. So he was much more comfortable coming in spring. And of course, he had that electric senior season. So of course, he came in with a little bit more momentum.
Yeah, definitely had a ton of confidence coming from that Corner Canyon season where he was the Gatorade Player of the Year, the National Player of the Year, threw some ridiculous number of touchdowns with some ridiculous number of interceptions less. So it was something like 60 to 4. It was a ridiculous touchdown interception ratio there. But that confidence, we saw it in the spring. We haven't necessarily seen it carry over so much in the fall. I think he's still trying to get his feet wet a little bit here in the fall as he makes that transition to, hey, we're only a few weeks away from a game. I'm trying to win this battle. So we'll see how those guys continue to progress going into that first game. And when it comes down to it, whose name gets put on top, or does USC chicken out a little bit and put an or there? I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, but I think we'll have an idea and we'll at least name a backup before USC if they don't.
I don't think USC would dub it as chickening out, maybe continuing the competition.
Continuing the okay. We're going to name a backup for you guys one way or the other.
Okay, let's not throw shots on instant analysis. Okay, well, any final thoughts? We got to wrap this one up, Shotgun.
No, I thought it was a good day of work, and it was great to see the families back out there. Yeah. Lots of smiles, lots of hugs after practice, and those are the people that you want the players to be playing for. Yeah. They want to be playing for their family. They want to be making some big-time plays. If Josh Follow had his kid there, so I know his little baby is not going to remember that catch, but that's the one he can point out and say, you were there when I made that catch, and have that clipped out for him in the future. So that's a great kind of memory to build on there, and that's what you want to see with the families are in attendance.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC's fourth practice of fall camp. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.